How much do you think it is a Christian play? Where do you come down in that?
I certainly think it is a play about Christianity. Shakespeare couldn't uh, say so at the time because of various laws which forbade the deity from the Christian deity from being named on stage. This was an aspect of the kind of modern Puritanisation of the legislation. Okay, but he talks. So he's driven to talk about the gods, or fate a lot, and we should understand that what he's talking about is God, and
The Christian God.
the Christian God. Yes, Shakespeare's God.
Shakespeare's
Shakespeare
God,
was
exactly.
a Christian. He was a Christian.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. And he is driving in on current big questions, like how far, Calvin's question, like how far you and your actions are all preordained, that you don't have free will and so on. How far is God, as it were, in control, absolutely, of human behaviour? And that, of course, raised the kind of large question of how far a so-called God of love then was condoning evil and suffering and wickedness. Okay, the big Calvinist or post-Calvinist debates, and I think King Lear enters into all of that. He can't cast it in terms of Christian theology, but it's all, a debate. For example, people saying, well, this shows you are above, ye gods, and so on, ministers of justice, when the servant steps in to stab Cornwall. On the other hand, there's a voice saying, as flies to wanton boys, are we to the gods, they kill us for their sport. Two sides of this question, is there a God of justice ruling the universe justly, or is there a kind of indifference? I've got two suffering. Indeed, perhaps even commanding it and organising it. Now, as I say, this debate, or set of debates, lots of connected ones in the play, it can't be conducted in terms of God, yeah, but only in the gods, but every member of the audience would have understood that this was a if you like, a theological debate going on, later on, of course, the Puritans would close the theatres, and there were a lot of kind of Puritan critics of Shakespeare in his time, and so on. And Shakespeare is, of course, lampooning Puritan critics like Malvolio and so on, all the time. But all of that sort of indicates that the atmosphere of London is totally Christian, totally theological, one way or another. And interestingly, one of the early feminist critics, a woman called Duisenberg, made the suggestion, a very proper suggestion, that the audience would have been largely female, actually, and largely Christian females. She wants to kind of direct our attention, or to see the play's attention to these kind of Christian things as particularly in the air for the women, the Christian women in the audience, which is a very interesting thought, actually. Lots of Christian men, but everybody was a Christian in the audience. Everybody. I mean, it was just the odd kind of atheist, but that he was called Marlowe, Okay, everybody's a Christian, and Shakespeare's talking about up to the minute theological things which are animating the audience in Queen Elizabeth's time. You know, I mean, he remembers, and this I think runs through the play. How should kings behave? How should kings behave? Well, this is sort of dangerous talk in a way at the time. Shakespeare is, and everybody remembers that Queen Elizabeth only got there by an act of, well, in the first place, killing her sister, and then all the way back, the defection of Henry VIII from the Roman Catholic Church, which is in living memory, as it were, and the whole notion of kingship, which animates lots of Shakespeare plays, is not just a matter of kind of power and so on. It is a matter of theology, because the king is under God. And, you know, once again, all of these kind of, if you like, questions of the gods in this play, who are they, where are they, what are they doing, and what are they allowing, and so on, apply, of course, not just they apply to King Lear and Gloucester above. King Lear, who is represented on the stage as a kind of emblem of the Christian monarch, the contentiously Christian monarch in Shakespeare's time. Now, as a matter of fact, this is kind of ignored a great deal by a lot of the critical tradition who want to talk about the original King Lear as a kind of ancient Britain and so on and so on. And that's all crap, actually. That is actual crap. You would see from talking about some critics, they see this as, you know, kind of a play about ancient Britain, and the invocation of the gods indicates that Shakespeare.
But you're saying it's not. It's a play about a Christian.
It is. Absolutely.
Although the issues in the end are left unresolved as to where Shakespeare is on this. And I mean, my final thing really on this play is, where does it leave us? Is it his bleakest tragedy? I just want to quote, though, one thing from which you quote in the book from A.D. Nuttall, who says, at the end of the play, we are not sure that Cordelia is in heaven, but unless we are entirely brutalized, we do feel that we've glimpsed, beyond the chaotic horror, something of infinite sweetness that we cannot fully comprehend. Do you think he's right about that, or is the play, is there sort of some element of, I suppose, hope or whatever?
I mean, I think it is pretty bleak, and I'm not surprised that, you know, for example, the bleakest modern Anglophone writer, Samuel Beckett, should in many ways produce a lot of rewrites of King Lear. I'm not surprised about that. At the same time, there are a few kind of glimmers of anti-bleakness, but I would have thought they're very slight. And the truth of the matter is that, you know, Lear dies and Cordelia dies. Now we know that it's possible to see the play as Lear dying happy, thinking that Cordelia is still, look there, he says, but we're not told what he sees. Does he think her lips are still moving, that she's still alive, and so on? There's a breath there. It's not clear, and that's one of the kind of good things about it. But by and large, I think we believe that Lear dies unhappy, as it were, and if he thinks she's still alive, that is an aspect of his kind of continuing foolishness. And Cordelia, we know absolutely, is dead. Okay, so there is a kind of farcing about this. the failed suicide of Gloucester, for example, makes a kind of comedy out of the bleakness, but that has a bit like the kind of daftness of the play, which is so overwhelming. That sort of farcing element there, Gloucester thinking he's at Dover Cliff and can throw himself off and so on, and being deceived by his pretend mad son, that indeed he is dead. I mean, it's farcical. It's quite, but it has extraordinary, once again, extraordinary, overwhelming force. It's hard, I think, for anybody to come out of the theatre feeling at all cheered.